Hey kids, welcome back to another pizza party. I'm Mrs. Pizza, and this is a reading vlog. I'm sorry, did I wake you? If you can hear Winnie itching, I apologize. I don't know why you're so itchy today. Winnie is down here. I don't know where Cheese is, which is obviously probably a bad sign. She could be anywhere. She could be doing anything. She's destroying things as we speak. She's a puppy, and that is her job. But we are here today because, well, we are going to start a reading vlog, but a very specific reading vlog that I've been interested in starting for a while. And that reading vlog is going to be Baby's First Stephen King. Now, I know what you're thinking. Hey, you've been a reader for a while now, and you still haven't gotten to Stephen King? I know. If you're anything like me, when there's a lot of pressure on something, when something is so beloved, when an author is just everyone's favorite, it almost makes me keep a distance from it because there's so much hype and I'm so worried about it. So I finally decided it's time to take the plunge. I'm going to be reading 2 Stephen King novels that I have decided sound like the best fit for me. We'll see. I've never read any Stephen King before, so who knows? The first book actually just came through as audio from the library, and that is going to be Pet Sematary. I will say I picked this one, and I have seen at least the one adaptation, the older adaptation I have definitely seen. I don't know if because there was a remake a few years back, and maybe I saw it, but I don't remember it. I'm going into this one knowing at least the basics of this story. So this one will not be that big of a surprise for me, and there's only so much you can do about that because so much of Stephen King stuff has been adapted. Like I swear it's like every book. There's a TV show or a movie or a mini series or something. I decided to go with Pet Sematary because it sounded like it was going to be the one that was going to freak me out and scare me the most. I also ordered a physical copy of the second book that I'm going to be picking up. I found it on Pango for super cheap, but I have not seen any adaptations of that one. So I know literally just kind of what I've absorbed from living in America and knowing and consuming media. I have the barest bones understanding of what that book is about. And so that's why I decided to choose that one to read physically. If you don't know what Pet Sematary is about, congratulations on being so good at avoiding spoilers for as long as you have, because that's amazing, honestly. The synopsis that I know from watching the movie that I will give you briefly is basically a doctor and his wife and 2 small children move into a house in Maine, because apparently that's where all Stephen books take place. Stephen books. Jeez, Stephen, I'm not on a first name basis with this man. Yeah, my friend Stephen, he writes his books. All of Stephen King's books usually take place in Maine, and so they move into this very small town. They live across from a very, very busy road, and on their property, they find a local pet cemetery. And that's all I really know about it. I mean, I know how it ends up because I've seen the movie, but I'm interested to see if the book is different from the movie adaptations and a lot of stuff, and what kind of changes they made to the characters, because I know, especially with the older version, I'm sure they cut a bunch of stuff out. But when I've got about 20% in, I'll give you a more in-depth synopsis about what that is about, and then I'll let you know when my other book shows up. It should be here soon, hopefully. Hopefully she gets here fast. And then we can talk about that one too. All right, so I know the lighting is amazing. Also, I have the complexion of a newly woken zombie at this point, but we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about the fact that it's Winnie's birthday, and we are going to make her a special birthday treat because she is officially, Cheese is also at an 11, so there's that. Yeah, Winnie is, I think, we're going to guess around 9 years old. Not 100% sure. I've had her for officially 5 years at this point. So I've officially had her longer than whatever garbage person before me had her. She has been living her best good girl life for about 5 years, and she's somewhere around 9 years old. So we are going to make Winnie some very special cupcakes. We are continuing to listen to Pet Sematary, and I'm going to put these in the oven. And by the time I put them in the oven, I should be at the 22% mark, and I'll give you an update, a better synopsis about what the heck this is about. Somebody's gonna get hurt.
So high, I'm hypnotized. What's up is down, what's left is right. Chasing stars and holding you. I can't see the end, but we'll see it through. Dangerous times, don't fly too high. Be sure to keep the ground in sight. Fly forever if you keep it tight. Love the world, but keep the sky on your mind.
It's like heaven is hitting me right here. So now that we've got those in the oven, let's talk about Pet Sematary. I know, since I've seen the adaptation, the movie adaptation. The first movie adaptation, I looked it up, came out in 1989, which I barely alive at that point. There was another adaptation that came out in 2019, and then apparently there is some sort of prequel TV show that came out this year, which I am literally just now finding out about. This is the story of Lewis, and he is a doctor that has moved to a secluded house in Maine with his family. He has taken up a new job working at the university, and he has two young children, a daughter and a son. The daughter is 5 years old and has just started kindergarten, and the son is, I think, around a year old or about to be around a year old. He's very, very young. Now, the beginning of this story opens with Lewis and his family arriving at their new house, which sounds like it is very idyllic, except for there is an extremely busy road that runs right in front of the house, and there are tanker trucks barreling down this road at all hours. The house across the street belongs to an elderly couple that Lewis immediately bonds with the older gentleman whose name is Judd, and he is the one that has the iconic line in the movie, "Sometimes dead is better," is how they put it. We are following Lewis and his family, and at the 20% mark, we have already gotten some ooky spooky scariness. This starts off as introducing you to the characters, getting to know Lewis and his family and all their eccentricities. Lewis and his wife are not perfect people, is how I will put it. You are definitely inside of Lewis's head for the majority of this. I don't know if the point of view is ever going to switch, but Lewis is our main character, and he isn't a perfect person. He definitely has thoughts that a not perfect person would have, but he's not a bad guy. He loves his family, even though sometimes they get on his nerves. He doesn't always do the right thing, but he tries to, and Lewis, on his first official day of work, witnesses a very horrific event. I'm trying not to do spoilers, because if you haven't spoiled yourself for this book, I don't want to be the one to do it. You are doing fantastic. But needless to say, just out of the gate, there are sinister, spooky vibes surrounding this pet cemetery that is located on Lewis's property, just through a path through the woods. There is also a barrier on the other side of the pet cemetery that seems like it is very important and should not be crossed. And if you know anything about Pet Sematary, you know that even though this barrier shouldn't be crossed, Lewis is going to cross it because of circumstances. I will say, I have never read Stephen King's writing before. Obviously, that is what what this vlog is all about. I mean, I shouldn't be surprised that he's a good writer. How he describes things are absolutely gorgeous, aside from the fact that we're talking about something gruesome. Just even talking about his daughter getting onto the school bus, how he talks about her being eaten by this school bus, is meaning she got on the school bus and went to school, but yet it's everything that's happening is very sinister, but yet he could do something so casual. Stephen King is really good at his job. Are we surprised? No, we're not surprised. Also, we've got about 5 more minutes before Winnie's birthday cupcakes are done. Yes, I know I'm extra making my dog cupcakes, but I love her and she's a good girl. I will link the recipe for the cupcakes in the description if you are as extra as me and you want to make your dog a special treat. They're super simple and they don't take a lot of work, and it's her birthday. And don't we all just want to celebrate birthdays? It is extra gloomy outside today, so I think I'm going to get a bunch of things done around the house. I'm going to keep listening to Pet Sematary and enjoying the heck out of this spooky read. All right. First of all, hi, Winnie. Winnie's butt is probably going to be in this entire shot because there's a window right here and there's critters outside. It's basically dog TV. You stink. Why do you smell so bad? We are here for a multitude of reasons. One, I finished Pet Sematary and we need to talk about it. First, we're going to mention the fact that yes, my hair looks incredibly different. No, she's not in her final form. I'm tweaking her. This was supposed to be orange and it feels very red to me, but I'm not saying that because I'm fishing for compliments. It really is probably going to change drastically over the next week because that's what I do. I make up my mind to do a big change and then I half-ass it at first until I get what I want. If I didn't pull the trigger, I would never do it. So you just pull the trigger and then you deal with the consequences, at least when it comes to hair. Okay, it was this or bangs, you know? And I don't want bangs again. I've done it too many times. I finished Pet Sematary, and we're going to talk about it. I will say this. I know that as a reader, we're just going to be right here? No, yeah, you're the star. No, thank you. No, thank you. We don't need to make out because that's inappropriate. And also, I don't want to. I will say, as a reader, it is pretty on brand to say that the book is better. The book is better than the adaptation. That is just kind of how it goes. And I feel like in general, it is hard to take a book and completely, truly adapt it. They stay very, very true to the original without having to cut some things. There is just some things that don't translate into visual media. But when you have to cut those things out, you lose really important parts of the story sometimes. And I will say, having watched a lot of Stephen King adaptations of things and having a generally decent time with it, but never just being completely blown away. I picked this story because I knew this book was a lot of people's favorite Stephen King's. And it's amazing to me that when I tell people I'm reading this book, are you back? Can you sit? No, I don't want to. Gosh, I love you, but let's not. It's amazing to me how when people ask what I'm reading right now and I said Pet Sematary, how everyone had read this book and went on and on about how good the book was. I picked this book knowing the story and yet still was so completely engrossed in the story that was happening. I actually listened to the version of this that is narrated by Michael C. Hall, who you would probably recognize as Dexter from the TV show. And he did a phenomenal job. I was so just completely invested in the entire story. I will say in the book how the the big scene, the big trauma that happens is dealt with is so different from any of the adaptations I've seen, where the emphasis is on the aftermath, on the funeral, on the trauma, and how it's rippling through the entire family. Whereas in the movies, a lot of emphasis is put on the actual event of what happens. I mean, it goes back and describes what happens. It's very, very graphic. It's awful. But you basically are following this family, and then the trauma happens, but you are transported to the time after it and then brought back to deal with it through a flashback. It is so well crafted. I was totally creeped out the entire time, even though I knew exactly what was going to happen. I really enjoyed the crap out of this. And I was so, I don't want to say surprised, because I definitely thought I might like Stephen King as a writer, but I was really surprised with how much I liked this book. Like, I really liked it. I just wanted to talk about it. And I was really, really happy that everyone has already read it and wanted to talk about it with me. The next book that I'm going to pick up from Stephen King is going to be one that I do not know the story. I have not seen any adaptations, and I only have like a bare minimum, like little baby synopsis. It's like, this is what it's about. Oh, let me go get it because she got here. We'll open her together. No, it's not for Winnie. There, now it's your hat. I'm going to be picking up Salem's Lot. All I know about this is it's another small town, I'm assuming in Maine, because that's in Pet Sematary. The town that this takes place in is mentioned as being near to where Pet Sematary takes place, a small town called Jerusalem's Lot, also known as Salem's Lot. And there's vampires in this. That is literally all I know about it. I have not seen anything. I think this is so well known that I haven't had a spoiler for it, which is I find very interesting. I don't know what's going to happen. I'm sure as I'm reading it, some things that somebody has mentioned will come back to me, but I have a feeling this one's going to scare me more than Pet Sematary did because I don't know what's going to happen. This is also a new movie tie-in. There must be a new version of this coming out. I don't know when. I don't know why. I don't know if it's on TV. I don't know if it's a series or a movie. I don't know. I'm going to be picking up Salem's Lot and continuing on with my Stephen King journey. But I actually don't have time to read right now because Cheese and I are going to therapy. Well, Cheese is not going to therapy. I'm going to She's a puppy and has not experienced any trauma aside from, I mean, she might have experienced trauma. We got her as a baby, but who knows? Cheese is not in therapy because she's a dog. I am in therapy and Cheese comes with me. But we're going to go do that. And then we've got the rest of the day to just mosey around the house, pick up things. But I think I want to make a decent size dent in Salem's Lot. But I will check back in with you when I can give you a better synopsis of what this is about other than Stephen King vampires, which honestly is plenty, you know? We're in full-blown chaos right now. I'm going to take my glasses off so that it's not just a glare in this general area. I love you so much, but I need you to not lick in my mouth when I'm least expecting it. No, it's not okay. Yes, my hair is different already. I told you it would be. It's not a surprise. We are here because I am, how many pages into this am I? 234 pages into Salem's Lot. And I'm glad I picked this up not knowing anything because that has been, I think, the most fun. I don't even want to say the most fun part. It's been a very fun part of this story. The fact that I know something sinister is going to happen. And I know it's vampires. Like I know it's vampires because living in America, in the pop culture world that I live in, I know that this is vampires, but that's all I know about it. And so I don't know what the beats are, how these vampires work, what's going to happen. And that is really, really fun going into this. And I don't know if I'm going to have that experience going into any other Stephen King book because living in the world, the majority of us have been spoiled. Even if we haven't seen the adaptations, we know something about most Stephen King novels at this point. I mean, this one was written in the 70s, so I'm surprised I've gotten this far without having any spoilers to this. I am not usually an anime annotation girly, but I got out my tabs and my highlighters because I'm just going to go ahead and say this, even though this is my second book by this author. He is so good at this. I am a fan. It's not surprising. He's extremely popular. It's like, girl, you just got here. We've all been in this club for a while. And I show up, I'm like, do you know how good he is at this? This is amazing. I got out my tabs and my highlighters. If you see all those little green tab babies, thank you for moving the camera. Thank you for your contribution to this. If you see all those little green tabs, that is every single time so far in this book that someone has taken a beat, taken a moment and looked up at the Marsden house. And I know that this looming ominous presence of this house where something horrible occurred, where an evil person may have lived in the past, an evil person may be living in the current day in this story. This presence, I believe it's like referred to as an idol at one point that just looks down on this very small town. It knows all of its secrets. It sees all of its seedy under things. It knows everything about everyone. It is just this dark, looming house. And all of these times, someone has looked up at it and gotten a feeling of being watched or that something bad is on the horizon. Let me back up and give you a little bit about this if you're like me and all you know is vampires and Stephen King. So far in this book, at the almost halfway point, this is the story actually of Salem's Lot, hence the title. So in this story, we are following all of these people that live in the small town of Jerusalem's Lot. We have a main character, which is Ben Mears, and he is a writer. He was very young when he moved to Salem's Lot to live with his aunt for a few years. And then I think he was around 7 when he left to go live with his mother again. Ben has had quite a few tragedies throughout his life, but he's not a somber character. He is this author that has written some acclaimed novels. And so I think he has an eye to pay attention to things. But he came back to Salem's Lot to write a book, tried to rent the Marsden house, which is this kind of mythical house that lives kind of perched above Salem's Lot. Years ago, the house was built and lived in by a mysterious and what everybody believes was an evil character with a sinister past. A tragic event happened there, and then when Ben was a child, he actually was dared to enter the house. So it's become this like urban legend within the town, this evil house. But Ben tried to rent the house, but when he inquired about renting the house to stay there for a while to write something, he was informed that the house has been purchased. So someone has bought the Marsden house around the same time that Ben has moved back to town. You spend a really good chunk of time in one particular day. I believe you start at like 5 a.m. and then you move kind of, it's not hour by hour, but chunks of time throughout the day, 5 a.m., 6 a.m., 7:30 a.m., 11 a.m. And you move through the day jumping from person to person, getting little vignettes of what's happening around the town and all of these different, no. You don't get to move the camera and then bark. Hey, look at me. Eye contact. Winnie, this is prime Winnie watching out the window time. So she's very irritated that I'm right here in this spot. So we'll wrap this up fast. So Winnie can get back to watching squirrels and dogs walk by. How this is written, you are spending a lot of time with the people in the town, knowing that something sinister is going on. But as of right now, there's only a few things that have happened that you're like, whoo, buddy, okay, something bad is about to go down. It's more just a feeling of something sinister, all these little hints that you're getting from different people's points of view. They see something that you set back in the back of your mind are like, okay, that might be important later. I'm really amazed by how I'm already starting to pick up on things that are going to be important that just are casually described among the people of this town. This is about an entire town. And that's why I'm actually kind of surprised. Well, I'm not surprised. Everything that Stephen King writes, I feel like it's an adaptation, whether it's a good one or a bad one. But I'm surprised that this has been attempted to be adapted as many times as it has been, because I don't know how you would adapt this. There's so many characters. It's the town that's the cast. And a lot of the times you're just being introduced to a character very casually because they're just a casual member of the town. They might not play a very big part, but the town itself is where the story is. Even though our main kind of through line is Ben coming into this town. He's our main character, but he's not. Our town is our main character. So I hope that makes sense. I'm really enjoying the crap out of this, which should be surprising to no one except for me. I don't know why it took me this long to pick this up, but I will check back in with you when I have finished Salem's Lot and let you know how I felt about it. I really would be very surprised if this disappoints me. I am so invested. I am flying through this. Jesus literally dragging Winnie backwards by her legs. Winnie, she's literally was just taking a nap. And I thought, now is the time. I will turn on the camera right now. She was like, oh, it's party time. I'm here for it. We are here to chit chat about this book that I just finished. And let me just start this by saying I'm officially a Stephen King girly. It is a thing. I don't know why I'm surprised. I keep saying that. Like, why am I surprised? Did I think I was special, that I wasn't going to like him? No. At least from the 2 books I've read, I've had a fantastic time. This was so much fun. Why don't you both go lay down? Because this just literally devolved into chaos 2 seconds ago. Who licked this? Somebody licked the microphone. You're sitting on my book. Is everyone else's life just like this? Before I was so rudely interrupted, I was trying to talk about Salem's Lot. I really enjoyed the crap out of this. It was very, very creepy, and there were definitely times that were surprising to me, but I felt like overall it's just a good read. I don't know what to tell you other than Stephen King is good at his job. I also like how, at least in the 2 books that I've read, he sets you up with this feeling of something on the horizon that's sinister, that it's coming, you're anticipating some horrible event. Then he basically sets it up for the tide to turn. I literally had a moment in this book where I was like, here we go. The tide has turned. The moment is happening. We are here when the shit hits the fan. I enjoyed the crap out of this. It's Stephen King vampires, but it's really about a small town and all of the small evils in a small town. There's a whole monologue that the priest in the town has that is really relevant to the story about how instead of everything being good versus the big evil, it's a lot of tiny, not even tiny, but less significant evils with a lowercase e. Death by 1,000 cuts. There's this town, it's not all of them, but it's the majority of them doing small evil deeds. Things that are inconsequential, things that are selfish, things that are big deals in the person whose life is dealing with them, but throughout the town, life just continues on as usual. And so how all of these small evils can be viewed and taken advantage of by these big evils that come along, and how the big evils do still exist. The big evil in this uses this town full of small evils, takes advantage of these people, sees all of their deeds, knows all of their secrets. The town is the main character, and I loved that. Even if sometimes when they were talking about somebody, I had to think for a second, I'm like, who the crap is that even person? But most of the time it doesn't matter, because within the context of what you're being told, you can figure out what they're trying to get at. It's good. It's good, and I'm a fan, and I'm gonna work the word Jehoobies into a sentence this week. That is my plan. If you've read this book, you know how hard that might be, but I'm going to Jehoobies, really? Like, literally made up a new word. Since finishing both of these books, I have so many people that are like, oh, you're reading Stephen King, you should try this. Oh, you read Stephen King, this one's my favorite. So now I've just made my TBR even longer. I've gone even deeper down the rabbit hole. I may or may not have already ordered 2 more Stephen King books off of Pango because I found them for dirt cheap. I am nervous about the Dark Tower series, and I don't think I am mentally in a place where I need to start that series. But so many people are just now like, welcome to the club. To get your Letterman's jacket for the Stephen King fan club, you have to read The Dark Tower. And I'm scared. I'm scared. I don't want to do it. I'm afraid fans will show up at my house with pitchforks if I don't have anything but praise to heap upon that series and to say that I get everything and every understanding. I also think there's a lot of references to other Stephen King novels in that series. So maybe I should read some more books before I even get there, before I even think about it, before anybody even brings it up. But I think I did pretty good at picking my first 2 Stephen King books. And I'm in the club now, guys. I'm in the club. But that is where we are going to end this reading vlog. Thank you for coming on the Stephen King journey with me. Thank you for watching me become my final form of Stephen King girly. Oh, God. If you had fun hanging out with me and the dogs, please subscribe. I hope you're reading good books out there, wherever you are. And I'll see you next time.